Good morning, Vikings. I'm sitting in my truck because it's raining and my wife is still snoozing and our house is very small. And so because of that, I can't really shoot a video in the house without disturbing her. And I don't want to walk around in the rain because I'll melt. It started thunderstorming at dawn and it's raining now, and it's going to rain for the next 4 days, which makes my solar system basically inop. I don't have enough battery storage, and so basically we have no electricity. So we may be going into town somewhere to plug in our computers and our phones and stuff later. But today's Friday, 6th day, the day of preparation, so we have stuff to do to get ready for tomorrow. But still, probably not going to be gardening today. I want to talk to y'all today, this morning, about preparing for economic collapse. Number one, I'm not an economist, but I do have a master's degree, and I studied economics, so I'm not totally ignorant on it. And I don't give financial advice really, but I can tell you what I do and what I think, and you can just add it to your own, grist for your own mill, and decide what you think. Puerto Rico, right? Going down economically. It's a U.S. territory. They want to be a state. I don't think that'll happen under a Trump administration because, they'd all be Democrats, right? But their economy is going down. Illinois is basically getting ready to crash and burn. Now, I don't think the United States is going to let Illinois become a third world country. I don't think they're going to let Puerto Rico get too far down there. But what do I know? I mean, Detroit evidently is just horrible, right? We're letting that happen. I need more coffee, excuse me. Are these things, what's the word I'm looking for? I need more coffee, right? Are they foretelling? There's a word, not beacon. Omens. There you go. Woo. Are these omens of things to come? Is the economy going to crash? And after it does, everyone will look back and go, oh yeah, everyone could see it coming, or should have, and no one did. I know the U.S. economy is huge and resilient, and there's all the arguments that it won't crash. I also know things like I read an article where Trump had a meeting with his cabinet, and basically it was everybody against Trump. I think there were 2 other people on Trump's side who were thinking, yeah, we're probably going to start using some tariffs on steel specifically. And I didn't have an opinion on free trade. I didn't know what free trade was or wasn't when I went to grad school. And then they convinced me pretty rapidly, that free trade is the way to go and that's what we need to do, and and so I went along with that in the beginning. But the thing about grad school, at least for me, is they taught me how to think. And so before I graduated, I'd come back around, and I'm not a free trader. And I know all the arguments for free trade. I think we need to protect key industries in the United States, protect them. And I know the arguments against that. I do. I still think we should. But anyway, there's talk now that there may be a trade war that will just, could spin out of control or whatever. So what does that do with the economy? And I'm going to get to you, here directly. I'm just kind of giving you my thought process this morning. And then I read what the G20 is meeting, and Trump's going, and he's making a stopover in Poland, which has all the, Eurolibs, a Twitter, and concerned. Because he's stopping over in Poland, and Poland evidently is not playing, right? They're not playing the EU game. I'm just getting my coffee down here. They're not playing the EU game of, you have to accept so many Muslim refugees. They're not doing a lot of things, and they're a pretty big country, right, with a decent economy themselves. And now that Trump's going there, oh, and I guess they have a right-wing government, and so now that Trump's going there for a little meeting, a little sidebar, they're worried that it could, embolden the Poles, who are also trying to work with the Balkans, which is down on the other side of the Adriatic from Italy. Balkan states, some formerly Eastern European states, and I guess the Baltic states up there in the north, trying to get them to come to his side. And I guess a lot of those formerly communist countries are kind of right-wing now, and they're not buying into this liberal mess that's going on. So, where's it all going? I don't know. I know where it's going eventually. You read your Bible, it tells you where it's going. And what's interesting about that? I'm not going to turn this into a religious video, but a lot of different religions, if you will, belief systems, all have similar views of how this thing ends, right? And so we know how it's going. It's just kind of interesting to watch it, right? So, economic collapse or economic grave distress. What's that mean to you and me? Well, for one thing, it means there will be no more credit, right? No one will be issuing credit, and this country lives on credit. And so you won't be able to get a loan for anything. Businesses won't be able to continue loans for anything or get loans. And so things grind to a halt, right? And whatever's in the stores disappears immediately, and there's nothing coming behind it to replace it. And then, the government, which struggles valiantly to keep from drowning, takes, stern measures that affect the people, and, blah, 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 blah. And, you look at Venezuela, and I think in our mind, many of us, maybe I'm talking about myself, think of Venezuela as almost a third world country, so it's like, whatever. Argentina, they went through really hard times economically. Argentina's got a lot going on, right? And they had horrible times. Iceland, what about Iceland? And so could it happen here? Absolutely, I think it could happen here. And it could happen for a number of reasons, not just the economic reasons that I just kind of danced around there a little bit, but I mean, war could bring on an economic collapse or, natural disaster or whatever. The economy could stop. And if the economy stops, what's left is what you have that you can keep and what you can produce, because it becomes the base economy now, right? This fake economy, this fake world in which we live, which is why the powers that be are going to try so hard not to let it happen, right? Because they want to preserve this fake garbage in which we live, the matrix. But all that fake stuff goes away, and it just becomes a real economy. What can you do for me? I want a gallon of milk. Okay, who has milk? The store doesn't have milk. Farmer Bob has milk. What do you have that Farmer Bob wants? That's what it comes down to. And Farmer Bob doesn't want your 20s and 5s and 10s and quarters that you saved up in your mattress, because they're worthless now. He doesn't want that. Farmer Bob wants something else. Now, if nobody's buying Farmer Bob's milk, he's going to adjust what he wants in exchange for that milk, right? And so everything kind of starts leveling out. But the bottom line, it becomes producers. You have to produce. Think mid-ages, right? Medieval times, the peasants in the villages, those kind of things. The names that we have in America today. I was just thinking about this when my wife and I were talking about it. Thatcher. I had a Sergeant Thatcher that I really liked, good guy, when I first joined the Army. Thatcher, where did his family come from? Probably England, right? And their ancestors probably thatched roofs on buildings, which is a skill, right? It's work, but it's a skill. And so they got the name Thatcher, or Tanner, or Black, for blacksmith, or Smith, I mean, all kinds of names. Everybody did something useful, something that other people were willing to pay for. Now, I would submit, whatever, you could say that everybody now who earns money does something useful for which they get paid. Sorta. I think in a lot of ways this economy is a self-licking ice cream cone, right? I think a lot of people do things that really aren't worth much and still get paid for it because we have free money flowing everywhere, man. McDonald's, all the restaurant industry. People go out and they eat. Cool. Why? Because it's easy. Don't have to clean up. Don't have to cook. I can just sit here and let somebody serve me my food, and just throw money at it. That stuff will all go away instantaneously. No one's going to have money, so no one's going to be able to go out to eat. So hard skills, time for you, self-assessment time. What can you do that's of any value? I did a video that was kind of harsh. I don't know, I think it was a couple years ago now. It's on YouTube. What do you bring to the table? Kind of along those lines. What skill sets do you have that somebody is willing to trade with you? Or what do you produce that somebody is willing to trade with you to keep the economy going? Somebody's got milk. They're looking for somebody to give it to. They're going to weigh their options, and they're going to pick somebody who's going to get their milk. Is that going to be you? Doctors. A lot of doctors can't practice medicine in austere conditions. They're just not equipped for it. But some can. They will be very valuable. What are they going to get in trade? A chicken, right? Come over for dinner. Okay, so think about that. Well, I'll give them a good home-cooked meal. Okay, put yourself 6 months down the road into this economic collapse. You're going to give them a good home-cooked meal of what? What are you cooking them? Where'd you get it? You had to grow it, right? You got chickens in the backyard. Do you grow potatoes? Do you have corn, squash, beans? Dun, 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 dun. Because, see, we as Americans like to buy our way out of problems. We like to stock up things, buy shiny things. My golf game's horrible, so what I obviously need is a new set of clubs. Right? I mean, it's the way we look at things. And so people think, well, I've got a robust food storage, which could get stolen, get burned up, get eaten. You could move away from it, Okay, now what you got? What do you have to trade? What do you have to provide? And so start thinking along those lines. You need to have some real skill sets. You need to have real capability. I did a video on YouTube yesterday on running a 100-mile race, and somebody made a comment. I almost answered it, and I thought, you're not worthy of receiving an answer, so y'all will hear the answer. But it's like, what value is it in being able to run 100 miles? Why don't you teach people how to do survival stuff instead? Words to that effect. If you can go run 100 miles, you're pretty fit. If I can go run 100 miles, I'm pretty fit. And that translates into so many other things. The drive, the stamina, the willpower to get it done, to see it through, to make it through. A lot of people talk a big game. A lot of people think that they will be able to rise to the level of their expectations, but they will not. They will fall to the level of their training and experience, real experience. And so, being able to do the hard things. I said yesterday, kind of tongue-in-cheek, if you want to run with the big dogs, you got to get off the porch. You got to be able to do the hard things now, or you're not going to be able to do them later. And so that's just one example of that. What can you do? What are you doing? What do you produce? If you do have a skill set, if you can keep a car running, convert it over to biodiesel and keep it running. I'm using this as almost a fictional example because I see so many problems with that. But do you have the tools to do it? Do you have the biodiesel facility to then sell the fuel that these people that you converted their car to can run? Dun, 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 dun. Where are you getting the input to your biodiesel facility? There's no more French fries. But, do you have the ability to do this stuff? Can you dig ditches? Well, do you have shovels and picks? Are you strong enough to do that? And so here's what I think. And it goes back, sometimes I just say the same things over and over, but I'm trying to live a lifestyle that's pure and true to what I believe, right? I'm not trying to fool myself. Get yourself a piece of land. Get it paid for. Put yourself some kind of building on it, house, that's paid for. So now the only thing nominally that you owe is taxes, right? Get a garden, get some food production going, have a way to defend it, get out there away from everything, and so that when everyone goes crazy and people are starving, a normally good neighbor will do all kinds of crazy things to keep his 6-year-old girl from dying of starvation. I mean, he will, right? So that's a people problem. Get away from the people. Surround yourself with people who are producers. Go back and read Atlas Shrugged again, Somebody made a comment, I think they even live in the Ozarks, about, well, where I live, it's amazing the number of people out here in the country who don't even have a vegetable garden or have critters. Okay, I believe that. Where I live, because, I drive down kind of the same streets a lot. I haven't, done the math on it. A lot of people have big vegetable gardens. My wife and I always look at them and go, wow, that's a nice garden. And have critters. Goats, chickens, cows, cattle. Food on the hoof or growing out of their grass, in the backyard. And so those people aren't going to be a problem. One side of Shofar Mountain is a cattle farm. Not my farm. Somebody else's farm. Down in the flats. And I'm not worried about those people sneaking on the Shofar Mountain, if times get hard. They've got a whole herd of cattle to eat. They're probably worried about those weird mountain people coming down, which they don't have to worry because, thou shalt not steal. And so, that's good. They're fed. They will be able to provide for themselves, and they will have excess beef that they can then trade for, whatever they need that people have. But we have an entitlement mentality in this country, and many of you, think people are going to support me because I am, and I have a right to exist. You have a right to exist, but you don't have a right to anybody to support you. Unless you're a child, and then, your parents are supposed to support you. And if you're a wife, your husband's supposed to support you, right? But in the bigger scheme of things, nobody has to do anything for you. You're going to have to do it yourself. And again, I don't think you're going to be able to buy your way out of this one. Having all the gold and silver coins in the world isn't going to help for a while until this secondary economy gets started, and that may not happen for a while. And so you're going to have to be able to take care of yourself. And so I encourage you, start now, get fit. You're going to have to work so much harder when the economy ain't working. When you've got to walk from your suburban house with something that you rigged up over your shoulders holding 2 5-gallon buckets down to the stream, wherever that is in your suburbia, and get some water out of there to bring it back and have water to drink or flush your toilet or whatever, Do you have a rain catchment system set up at your house yet? Why not? It'll save you the trip through Sniper Alley to get water. Do you have a garden? Is almost all of the usable space in your suburban lot converted into growing food? Why not? I mean, it's not like you haven't seen this coming. Start learning how to do stuff. Start taking stock. Start getting fit and healthy. And, so much of health comes from what and how you eat. What you stick in your mouth, And I am not the paragon of, healthy eating. Trust me, I know what healthy eating is, but, I eat my share of double whoppers with cheese. And I probably drink too much of this. But at least I understand what it is. And I'm pretty physically fit. And, my heart rate's good and all that stuff. So, but, how's your health? And instead of complaining, because I saw this in my, and I'm getting ready to end. But, I did that 100-mile video or whatever. And I almost wanted to say, but then I thought people would be offended. Methinks the lady doth protest too much. All these people coming up with all these excuses why they can't do it. Because I said, look at me, I got a gray beard, I'm going to do it, you can do it. And then all these people are like, rah, 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 I died this, I can't, I'm just a wreck of a human being. You see how they defaulted to that? A couple people didn't. A couple people said things like, well, I walk 6 to 8 miles a day, and that's about what I can do right now, so that's what I do. Focus on what you can do, and we can all get better at everything we do. Very few of y'all out there are masters at what you do. And if you're a master at something, there's other things in your life that you have not yet mastered, right? So we can get better. Start thinking about what's going to happen if this economy collapses for whatever reason and your money doesn't matter anymore and there ain't nobody selling nothing at a regular store. You're stuck with what you got where you are for the long term. Start turning those wheels around in your head and don't think and think about what you're going to do, how you and yours are going to survive, but think about what all your neighbors are going to do. A bad 5 acres in the Ozarks off a dirt road with a $200 camper on it that you've got a good garden and a chooks, I think they call them in Australia, a bunch of chickens in the backyard giving you eggs every day, water that you're catching out of the sky or something. That's going to be so much more paradise than your brick home with, 8 bedrooms, 5 baths, 3 living rooms, 5-car garage, surrounded by people just like that. Get ready. Take some steps. Take some physical steps. And again, I'm not talking about buying stuff. I'm talking about doing stuff, learning stuff, actually putting your hands to the plow. You have calluses on your hands? Why not? Okay. I care about y'all. I really do. I'll see you out there.